of religion. And so in San Francisco, for example, you have Beta Breakers, Gay Pride, different jazz in the park, rock in the park on Sunday. When I grew up, there were on Market Street, before we had the different malls, those stores were closed, department stores were closed on Sunday. And today, people live for the weekend. Football becomes the new religion for many on Sunday. And so all day you can watch football on Sunday. So we're seeing a shift culturally and socially as well as religiously.
Yeah. What is your opinion about the attack on the Christians in Syria?
I'm not an expert, but there is a large amount of tension among different denominations, Muslims, Christians, Jews, and that's throughout the world right now. And we're seeing a lot of people that are willing to die and kill and sacrifice themselves for what they believe in religiously. And so that leads me to conclude and to wonder, what is the ideology of that religion? My thinking that the ethics and logic of religion is peaceful coexistence, love, certain values. So I begin, when I see some of the things that are happening, to question what are the values of these religions that will take a life and take their own life and become a martyr for what they believe in. That becomes very dangerous if this continues to grow.
What is your employment history? Can you share of any of your fond experiences of employment?
Well, I've had a vast opportunity for employment. While in high school, I worked as a janitor for the city and county of San Francisco. As a student, well, secondly, after being going into the military, I worked as a member of the United States Army as a personnel specialist. But that's what I was trained to do, but I was also trained to defend and protect this country. And it just so happened that in Vietnam, I was at an ammunition depot that was blown up 3 times while I was there. And so I have experienced war, and it's not pretty. And I do know of people that have experienced war that are amputees now, dead now, addicted to drugs and alcohol, because war is not beautiful. And a month ago, I had to eulogize a friend of mine from Sacramento, California, that was a United States Marine Corps member who served in Vietnam, and he wrote a book about his memoirs of serving in Vietnam, having, at 18 years of age, having colleagues to be killed and seeing them die in his arms. He even took, in his book, he told the story of a friend, because when you serve in Vietnam, you can go on what they call R&R, rest and recuperation. And he went to Hawaii, and one of his soldier in his unit, a Marine Corps member, fell in love in Hawaii with a young lady and was going to marry her. And that was his fiance, and he heard that this gentleman was going. He went, gave her a roll of film of pictures that his friend had took, came back and wanted to tell him that he did his assignment, and he was shot in the head and killed before he got back. And so this friend had to deal with traumatic experiences such as that and many, many more. And caused him to have post-traumatic stress syndrome, alcohol, substance abuse issues, and there are many, many different stories because many people handle situations such as war differently.
What do you think is the most challenging aspect of working in a diverse working environment? How has it affected your career?
I think the most important thing is to know who you are and feel good about yourself. And that's why I say that a solid bowl, knowing that we're interdependent and that no matter what, I don't know what Michael Jackson did, but I can't make my skin, I don't know how to make my skin white, and I have no desire to make my skin white. I was born this way, and I am who I am, and I'm comfortable in my skin. So therefore, I am comfortable with who I am, and if you're not comfortable with me, it is not my problem, it is your problem. Some things I can change, some things I can educate, and some things I'll never be able to change nor educate, but I'm going to be me, and I have no desire to inflict harm, hurt, or anger on anybody.
What is your most common mistake in organizational thinking about diversity?
Could you repeat that first part of the question? What
What is the most common mistake in organization thinking about diversity?
A lot of people read textbooks and try to compartmentalize people and things. The best way to understand and learn is through interaction, is through talking to people and not stereotyping all people in one ethnic group or culture the same. Everyone is a unique individual. There are some similarities and there's some cross-cultural similarities that people can identify. And when you know that basically what I try to do is look for common ground. What do we have in common? I think that's the human race. Mm-hmm. And not just a compartmentalized race. Because if I was to draw a line on a sheet of paper and you were to identify all the things about you and I was going to deal with everything about me, there would be more things we have in common than not, such as a heart, eyes, mouth, nose, hair, except you have more than I do. Also, if we were to cut, we would have red blood. So I think, and what I like to amplify is the human race and not a specific race, because if we do that, there's a tendency for competitiveness, and I don't need to compete with you. But when I look at us being of the same human race, humanity, then that's the common ground. I think that's the most important thing about diversity, is not looking at what's different, but looking at recognizing differences, but building on the commonality of being from the human race.
That's a good concept.
Thank you.
What do you think about gentrification in San Francisco and Oakland? How has that changed the community as more technology workers take their neighborhoods that were predominantly ethnic enclaves?
I think that's been what this country has been built on. Land and economics is what makes this country evolve. The Silicon Valley is one of the most wealthiest areas in the world, even competitive to a degree with oil areas, but that technology and wealth is in close proximity. And so that's the magnet that draws people to this area. And the gentrification is that money talks. And poor people that don't have much and don't really understand economics and value of land and money will sell out in a hurry. Because the first person that gives them what appears to be an enormous amount for the property, they'll take it, but before taking it, they don't think, well, if I live in a neighborhood and I can get $500,000, $600,000 for my property, after I've made the transaction, I find that I can't find anything decent or comparable to what I had for that amount of money. So then I try Oakland, and then that won't go. So we're seeing an exodus of people, and especially lower socioeconomic people, leaving the Bay Area and moving to Antioch, Vallejo, Stockton, Sacramento, where land and property is more affordable. However, what they didn't do their research and their homework, I'm sitting in traffic for 2.5 hours trying to get from home to work and from work to home. So I spend 4 hours a day in traffic. Then I'm paying either 1 or 2 bridge tolls every day to get to work. And I've traveled all over the country, and I haven't seen that many bridges that charge $5, $6, $7, $8 to cross a bridge, and especially the bridges in the Bay Area that have been paid for. And then when I travel throughout the United States, I don't see gasoline at $3 a gallon like I do in the Bay Area. And I think about, why is this? Because there's money, and they know people will pay it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a premium to live here, and it's going to get higher and higher and higher. And the people at the bottom of the totem pole are going to move further and further and further. The question is that the new coming gentrified population has no sensitivity in many cases, not all, but in many cases, of the history of the community, the contributors of that community and neighborhood. And so there is no real understanding of the history of a community and the contributors.
How has your service in the United States impacted your experiences? What benefits or opportunities did you receive because of your employment in the military, and did it affect your treatment?
Yes, but it took a long time. Even with the military. Mm-hmm. It took me a while, and not until the last 5 years have people thanked me for my service. Before, when I came out of the military, people were protesting in San Francisco, Berkeley, and so I had to be I didn't have to be, but I was very quiet. I benefited from the GI Bill, which paid for my education. Mm-hmm. I tried to take advantage of all of the opportunities that it afforded me. It was not until later that I found out that by going into Vietnam, it was hazardous not just to my health, but anybody that went there, because they used DDT, which is poison, to saturate the land so they could kill people and see people and destroy the vegetation for war. But the poison went down into the water table. The poison caused Agent Orange that could affect your skin and all of that. And then as I think about it, at 18 years of age, I didn't think much about that. I just was doing what I was supposed to do. But for us to go over there and not be advised and notified that we were placed in an area that they had poisoned, mm-hmm. And now we find people with skin rashes from Agent Orange, DDT, when that poison goes down to the water table, because water flows underground,
Mm-hmm.
and we drink the water, we see an emergence of people that are diabetics. And there's a correlation between diabetes and serving in Vietnam. And when I first went to the VA hospital, they told me that I didn't qualify for anything. And then I had people to tell me I did, and I should pursue it. I did, and now I am 100% disabled based on the harms and the effects that that had on me. There's so many GIs, former servicemen, that are not aware of their benefits. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is to inform as many as possible and to help them. If they, rightly so, the gentleman that I did his eulogy, his funeral for his family last month, he was a recipient of a Purple Heart. The reason he got out of Vietnam, he got wounded. And he came home. He was in the hospital for a while, came home, and they would not, he was wounded, and then received the medal, Purple Heart.
Okay.
He was not 100% disabled. He had post-traumatic stress syndrome. That's why he was on alcohol. That's why he used drugs. And I was trying to help him, and he went to rehab, and he was in the hospital, and he acquired cirrhosis of the liver. It was discovered. But VA didn't discover it. They said he didn't have it. They sent him to another hospital, and they identified it, and he died 2 weeks later. But I was in the process of encouraging and motivating him to go, and I was going to help him get his full disability. That means total medical, dental, prescriptions, access to any military facility, commissary, which is the discounted grocery store, PX or BX based exchange, which is like department store at a discount, that could help him and his family live because of what he did and what he gave for his country, and he was not able to receive it. And there are many veterans that are not aware. We're finding that Desert Storm and modern day veterans, we're finding more and more amputees. And they're going